All right, friends, it's Simon. We're back with another Blaha video. So we're going to react to the gym lifting recruiting fitness gear slave. He just posted. Blaha says stimulus to fatigue is not science based; it's lazy based. Okay.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about the fact that stimulus to fatigue is just an excuse to train lazy. It is not based on science, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below.
Oh, really? It's based on training lazy? Oh, they have a lazy program. Had no idea, man. Cool. Where do I sign up? Okay.
Drop me a comment down under the video. Also, I'd appreciate it so much. Let's get over into this topic. All right, this is something that people bring up continually, and it's coming out of the evidence-based lifting circles, and here's the problem with it. They're calling it evidence-based or science-based, but there is no evidence or science to support it. So let's be clear on this. You know, this is not even a case of science versus bros. This is a case of lazy versus evidence.
Lazy
There
versus
is,
evidence.
let's be clear, there.
Well, I'm definitely not lazy, but I'll tell you this. Like I've said in all my videos, muscles are post-mitotic. So lifting weights, they don't make muscles grow because muscles are post-mitotic. They're not growing. So you can lift as much as you want. Now, if you want to build up these contractile proteins, then again, you need to activate the satellite cell. Now that's totally different. That has nothing to do with I'm just going there and I'm just going to lift and it's going to magically happen. Like my muscles are just going to magically grow because I'm doing progressive overload. Let's say. So I'm starting with a light weight and I'm going heavier and heavier. Okay, you're progressively overloading what? The nervous system. Okay, I'm progressively overloading the nervous system. Well, what does that have to do with muscle growth? See what I mean? What does that have to do with that? What does that have to do with building contractile proteins? You think that going to the gym often and then putting heavier and heavier weight on your body, going there often, is somehow going to build your body? Well, there is some stress on the myofibrillar from going heavier and heavier. You going in there every day, right? Now, it's a possibility you can build up some muscle, but it's not what you think it is. But it's not based on contractile proteins. That's why I could tell you that for sure. See what I mean? You can eat a lot of glycogen, though, artificial food, and then blow up the sarcoplasm, these non-contractile proteins in your body. But that strength that you're building on the nervous system, overloading the nervous system with a heavy weight coming in often, that is based on motor unit and androgen receptor and some hormones and whatever in your body for that force production that you're producing. That's about it. So you're just getting better at lifting heavier weight, but you haven't grown any myofibrillar growth, which is pretty much permanent actually. That's why they say it's based on what? Hyperplasia. That hyperplasia means you're building more cells, and if you're building more cells, it's a more permanent thing you're building. But that training is based on exercise induced muscle damage. So listen to the difference. We have a training called exercise induced muscle damage, right? Then we have these guys, they say progressive overload training, right? Progressive overload. Okay, you're progressively overloading the nervous system. You're recruiting motor units. Okay. So what are we doing in exercise induced muscle damage? Well, we're building what? We're building more contractile proteins, right? Okay. Then you get these people say, well, doing high volume, we're going to do high volume in the gym. Right. Okay. What are they doing? Oh, we're chasing a pump. We're getting pumped, high volume, whatever. And they're getting sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Now, can you get sarcoplasmic hypertrophy in exercise-induced muscle damage? Of course, because it's still part of the exercise. You're still exercising. But how do you get it? How do you include it in it? Easy. Eat complex carbohydrates. Eat carbs. That's what's going to increase those non-contractile protein, the mass of the muscle. Now, can you get it as well? Can you get non-contractile proteins? Can you build the sarcoplasm as well, lifting and progressive overloading, like for the motor unit? Yes, of course you can, providing you do what? You eat carbohydrates, artificial food, carbohydrates. Okay. So the volume people, how are they building their muscle? Same thing. They're eating carbs. They're just building at high volume. They're just pumping more glycogen into the muscle. Now, now here's the question. How do you increase the phony gains, the sarcoplasmic gains? When glycogen synthesis exceeds glycogen breakdown, that's when it starts increasing more exponentially, just like myofibrillar growth. So if you're building myofibrillar growth, protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown to see that mass on that myofibrillar. But it will not work in progressive overloading the nervous system because you're doing the nervous system. You're not building myofibrillar growth. And in high volume, it's not going to work because what? Because it's not based on exercise-induced muscle damage. So those two modalities are not based on exercise-induced muscle damage. So there's no need for you to, I got a protein synthesis, exceed this breakdown, whatever. There's nothing going on there, get it? You have a window for breakdown, but you're just restoring what you just lost. That's all. So your training, all your trainings, all these people and your training is all bullshit. Bullshitter. Bullshit. Get it?
There's never been a single study done on stimulus to fatigue. This is not something that's been studied in the lab. The entire concept of it even comes from the idea that people want to maximize volume because they're having certain...
You want to fatigue your muscles? Run up a stairwell, 100 stairs up a stairwell. A flight of stairs, 100 flight of stairs. There you go.
Circles that are telling you, well, we need to do as much volume as we possibly can, that more volume always equals more growth and less...
See? More volume equals more growth. No. More, when glycogen synthesis exceeds that breakdown, there's more growth in that sarcoplasm. Not if I do more volume, I'll get more growth. So if I do more volume, then it should suck in the very little amount of carbohydrates that I'm eating. It'll shuffle it into the muscle for me because I'm so lazy, I can't afford to buy a 100-pound bag of potatoes. Duh. Which only costs like $5.
Recovery gets in the way. And so if we look at the stimulus to fatigue, we can do even more total sets. We can do more work in the gym and recover from it. But, again,
we could do more sets and everything and recover from it. And we could get bigger. We could expand the sarcoplasm, these phony muscles. Yeah.
Optimal sets, right? They're not hard sets. They'll pick the easiest exercises so that they can just chase more volume. But the reality is, this is lower stimulus, right? When you get into all this stuff, this is just less stimulus.
Have you ever heard this in the mineral world, like the rock world? They say volume and then they say density. You see a rock with volume and then they say, look at this rock with density. They're the same size, but this one they'll say volume, this one they'll say density. The density one is a lot heavier than the one with a lot of volume. Or you get like, for example, you get one with a lot of volume, and then you get a rock that's denser but is smaller. But when you weigh them, you get the smaller one and the much bigger one. They weigh the same, but one is smaller, one is bigger because it's more denser.
Problem is when they're looking at stuff like stimulus to fatigue, it's saying stuff like, well, a deadlift, like I'm doing a conventional deadlift, which by the way, I do rep work with 500 pounds 3 times a week on the deadlift. Sure. I recover just fine. I'm 48 years old. I'm not blasting gear either. So
he's just recruiting motor units for no reason but to recruit them.
Let's be clear on that. I am 48, almost 49. I recover just fine deadlifting heavy 3 days a week. Okay. Just like this set you saw right there, knocking down 5 reps of 500 pounds. Okay.
Sure.
They'll say, well, that's equal set just for hamstrings, right? So they're talking about stimulus to fatigue, as if the deadlift doesn't grow like 8 different muscles in the body. This is the problem with these ideas. It's a stimulus to fatigue. It's like, well, you can get more sets for your hamstrings if we just did a hamstring curl. Yeah. Well, okay. But do you really think your hamstrings are going to be the biggest because of that? And I think that's the problem. I got pretty big hamstrings. All I do these days is deadlift for my hamstrings. It's not like I haven't done other stuff. I got a reverse hyper and a glute ham raise right there. I don't even have any of this high stimulus to fatigue equipment. I don't have any. Yet I have big hamstrings. You have seen me pull over 600 pounds in the past. Okay? Yeah. I don't have access to any of this equipment.
600
but it's not just
pounds in the past, yes.
Not me, is it? So back over to that point.
Yeah.
Look, they'll put out this idea, but here's the problem.
What's the problem?
Never been studied.
What's the problem, Blaha? What's the problem?
And here's the point I would make.
Yes.
When I say the stimulus of fatigue, you don't have direct studies ever trying to compare maximum volumes in recovery and to see which grows the most muscle. Okay? In other words,
Stimulus to fatigue, these studies to see what grows the maximum amount of muscle. Sarcoplasmic muscle?
you don't have a single study anywhere.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now. People, if you want to build these sarcoplasmic muscles, glycogen synthesis needs to exceed glycogen breakdown. Okay, I've done these videos for you on my old channel already. I don't know where fucking people are coming from. It's really simple. Sarcoplasmic, glycogen. Science tells you that. Glycogen. So when glycogen synthesis exceeds that breakdown, you go to the gym, you'll build these phony muscles. Now, if you want to build myofibrillar growth, then you have to, protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. And you need to damage those muscle fibers. So it's totally different. So really, the truth is, when it comes to sarcoplasmic muscle, it's not good to come in every day either, because you're trying to reload the glycogen in there. That synthesis of glycogen too could be going for 48 hours. I don't know. It's slightly different. It can even go the whole week too as well, actually, just like myofibrillar growth. You can come in, stimulate once heavily, and the rest of the week you could be loading this glycogen in the muscle, come back, hit it again next week. I don't know. It depends on your exercise. Look, I can literally come in once a week and still not get muscle damage. I just do my workout and there's no damage to my muscle. It's because I'm actually focused on damaging my muscle and I come back the following week. But your body really is prepped for muscle damage the following week. But again, it's based on extreme exercise. I'm not basing things on unaccustomed, unfamiliar forms or anything like that. I'm already familiar with my exercises and everything. My body's already familiar with these things. What I'm doing is it's based on extreme eccentric exercise. What is extreme? Overworking that muscle. I'm trying to overwork it to get micro tears in there. That's all. Get it? And I'm trying to get it to come back bigger and stronger. So when I come back, I'm bigger and stronger. I can handle heavier weight. And I'm not going to get injured, especially in the eccentric, because that's the most dangerous part of the exercise.
Showing that a hamstring curl is superior to a deadlift for hypertrophy.
Neither of them are superior for hypertrophy. Both of them will open a window for glycogen synthesis. Get it?
All right. This has not been studied. And here's what we find. All the studies that do look at big versus small exercises determine that the big exercises grow the muscles just as much. In other words,
the big exercises grow the muscles just as much. They don't grow the muscles if glycogen synthesis does not exceed glycogen breakdown. You will not build these phony sarcoplasmic muscles. Get it?
Every study that compares isolation to
When people show you these videos, when you go to like that guy, Desi Gym Fitness, he just put up a video right now. I saw it pop up. And he goes, how to gain weight. And all of his stuff there, how to gain weight is what? All these plant foods, starches. He shows you all this starch, how to gain weight. So the question is this: do you want to go to the gym to gain weight or do you want to build muscle? You have to figure out what modality you want to embark on and then go for it. But if you keep doing bullshit and think, oh, I'm building myofibrillar growth, doing high volume, you're crazy. Get it?
Thus far has generally found, with a few exceptions, rows don't grow the biceps optimally, but lat pull downs and pull ups do. Okay, see where I'm going there?
Lat pull downs and pull ups build biceps? How do they build them? It's crazy.
Lat pull downs and pull ups do. Okay, see where I'm going there? But
how do lat pull downs and pull ups build muscles? How do they build them?
Okay, you got a few examples, but by and large,
food doesn't build them, or these micro injuries doesn't build them, right? So food doesn't build them, and micro injuries does it. It's the pull downs that build them. Okay.
And research out there has actually determined that compound movements grow the primary movers just as much as an isolation.
So the compound movements build the primary movers. The compound movements build them. Your body doesn't build them. Food doesn't build them. The movements build them. Christ.
Movement does. There's no real difference. See where I'm about to go there?
Yeah, I see where you're going.
That's what the evidence shows.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have any studies looking at this whole stimulus to fatigue.
That's what the evidence shows. The evidence says if protein synthesis does not outpace protein breakdown, you are never going to see that mass on that myofibrillar. Now, as far as sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, the same thing. If glycogen synthesis does not exceed glycogen breakdown, then you're not going to build any sarcoplasmic muscles.
Idea.
You'll build very little.
And comparing it, it's not based on evidence. So, when this gets brought up and people say, well, we're talking, this is science-based. What science? You mean it's based on a hypothesis? It's
I already just did a video on it telling you you're building 40 muscles.
Based on a theory? Okay? Let me reiterate, you do not have actual evidence of this.
Look, the what do you call it? Aesthetic physique community, right? All these people pushing out aesthetic physiques is because they probably realize they're not building any muscle because they don't know how to, and they don't want to go through that. They don't want to go through all of that. It's too much work for them to even build myofibrillar growth. But they realize the sarcoplasmic, it would never stay, never sticks. The gains are going blah blah blah. So they just give up. They go aesthetic physique is better. Why? Well, what is making them aesthetic? Well, what is making them not aesthetic? The slave food diet, which is domesticating them like a pig, a boar to a pig, right? So how does a pig turn back into a boar? Put him out of nature, get it, dude? So when you get a boar, what does he do? You feed him slave food diet, and then he turns into what? A pig. So that's what all of you are out there. So what do? They go, hey man, we need to get the aesthetic look. In other words, what these people are trying to tell you is undomesticate yourself. That's all. How do you undomesticate yourself? Stop eating domesticated food. If you stop eating domesticated food and eat what is natural, then you'll be undomesticated, get it? And you'll have a aesthetic so-called physique and all of that. You'll go back to normal. But as far as this whole fitness thing, they constantly are telling you you're building muscle. You're not building muscle. Nobody is out there. I told you, 99% of the people don't know what build muscle, don't understand it, don't know how, don't put even an effort into it, because it requires money and effort to build real muscle. You need time, money, and effort to build myofibrillar growth. And if you don't have those three in order, it will never work for you, because it can only happen in a very short run. When it comes to building real muscle, myofibrillar growth, it can only happen in a short run within a year period. After that, there's nothing to do there anymore. So you do it within a year, or within months to a year. It happens quickly. It isn't, I'm going to be building muscle forever for the next 30 years. No, it doesn't work like that, man.
It has not been studied. Therefore, it's not science-based.
Look, even sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, it happens rapidly. Rapidly. You get pumped up. Now, you can go often to the gym so you can keep this so-called low body fat and increase the non-contractile proteins in the sarcoplasm. You can keep doing that, forcing it. So you get this pumped look, and then people will think you're on steroids. Get it? Yeah.
And you can call it that all that you want. Okay? You can call it that. You can say, hey, this is evidence-based. But you don't have evidence, and you don't have science to support it.
I do. I
Right?
have evidence and everything that I say to support whatever I say.
And when we look at the available science, we find that these big movements grow these muscles just as much. Well, here's the problem. They're going to stand there.
The movements do not build the muscle, because science tells you protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown to see that mass on that myofibrillar. It says you need to be in positive nitrogen balance. That's associated with muscle growth. If you're negative nitrogen balance, it's associated with what? Negative. Get it? No growth. Now, these sarcoplasmic muscles, again, glycogen synthesis exceeds that breakdown, and you'll see the sarcoplasm expand. But no weight can do that.
And make these claims, but
That's why Blaha is not growing. He just is overloading the nervous system to recruit motor units.
when they're talking stimulus fatigue, as well, these bigger exercises, a bench press is a lot of fatigue, a deadlift's a lot of fatigue, right? Whatever, the bigger the movement. Well, obviously it's more fatigue. Obviously a deadlift creates more fatigue than a hamstring curl machine. This is a given. You don't.
Why does it create more fatigue? Why are you fatiguing yourself? I get fatigued listening to this guy, watching him.
Have evidence that the hamstring curl has more growth potential in the hamstring.
Has more growth potential? How does it grow muscle?
Here's the other problem. If you're going to try to pick all these, we're just working less muscle. Generally speaking, when we look at the big exercises,
okay,
all these big high fatigue exercises, they all cause huge amounts of growth. When they're studied, they cause multiple muscles to grow.
So why aren't you growing then if they cause muscles to just grow magically because I told you muscles are postmitotic. They do not fucking grow from lifting weights, bro. Get it? Fuck off.
Right? Squat doesn't just cause the quads to grow, it gets enormous glute growth.
They don't cause it to grow. It's impossible. Muscles are postmitotic. They do not grow from lifting weight or squatting.
In fact, it's one of the best glute exercises, if not the best it's ever been.
The science already tells you that. Muscles are postmitotic. They do not grow.
Found in studies. The adductors.
Even Blaha has admitted there's no such thing as hyperplasia. He told you that in his videos. There's no hyperplasia. It doesn't exist. But then he's telling you, hey, you lift this heavy weight and the muscles grow magically. But how do they grow, Blaha? If muscles are what? Huh?
Glutes, the quads, even the calves grow from squats. Yes.
See, even the calves grows from the squats, but yet the muscles are postmitotic. They do not grow. They don't grow, bro.
It's a high fatigue exercise, which causes all this to grow. We've also even found this study.
So high fatigue and all that causes them to grow, even though muscles are postmitotic. Okay.
Look at it, causes the upper body to grow. So
it also causes the upper body to grow, but it's not growing because it's postmitotic. If there's any visual sign of hypertrophy, that isn't based on muscle growth.
Deadlift. So people will even argue, well, you know, the leg press is better stimulus to fatigue or whatever machine, but does it cause the upper body to grow? Well, no. So
none of it does.
Are you sure that you're getting more total muscle growth for the amount of fatigue? Just because the squat's more fatigue doesn't mean that there's...
So if I fatigue my muscle, because my muscles are postmitotic, if I fatigue my muscle, that will cause it to go through something called mitosis? Never, bro. Never. Never.
Evidence.
So don't ask me, Hank, why do you drink?
Because the squat's more fatigue doesn't mean that there's evidence, right? Doesn't mean that there's evidence.
Evidence. Wasting your time, man. Muscles are postmitotic. That's why he looks like just an average guy. Look at him. Many people look like this. Many people that come off steroids look like this. People on, off, whatever. People exercising in the gym, they just look like this, average. I know people that have been lifting for years now, and they look like this, bro. Get it? They never changed.
That it causes less growth because these bigger movements.
Less growth. But muscles, they don't grow because they're postmitotic.
That have all, because that's really all the fatigue means.
Yeah?
Well, yeah, exercises that create a whole lot of fatigue as a whole.
So guys, you got the secret now. Muscles are postmitotic. To get them to go through mitosis, you have to fatigue them. Blaha's got the secret to getting muscles to split, divide, and increase in number. Yet he tells you that hyperplasia doesn't exist. So if hyperplasia doesn't exist and muscles are postmitotic, how do they split, divide, and increase in number? Oh, I'll tell you how. Fatigue. Muscle to fatigue. A heavy weight. Yeah.
A lot of muscles are being worked. A lot of weights being moved.
Oh, yeah.
But they cause just as much stimulus.
Yeah, it causes stimulus to that muscle fiber. Yeah. Why do you think your muscles give you motor units instead of splitting, dividing, and increasing in number? And that's why you get these power lifters always complaining about, I got a stronger, but I never got a bigger. Why didn't you get a bigger? Because muscles are post-methodic, you dumbass. Get it? That's why your body gives you motor unit recruitment. That's why you see a lot of people online. That's all they do is they chase fucking motor unit lifts because they can't build muscles because muscles are post fucking methodic. But they can't get it through their head. But I know they'll sell you a protein powder. They'll sell you creatine. Creatine will build muscles. Creatine is not going to build muscles. I'm going to tell you right now, none of these supplements, none of these powders, nothing that you do on the face of this planet fucking Earth is going to cause those muscles to go through mitosis. You have to be mentally sick like this guy.
Like, this is a problem. This is a major problem.
Yes, this is a problem.
To try to claim then that there's evidence of this, because what does it do? It promotes lazy training.
Yeah, sure does.
All that this is doing is promoting lazy training and being afraid of big exercises.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
But this isn't based on science, and it's not based on the real world.
Okay.
Historically, no one had problems getting big on big basic movements, right?
I'm sure they haven't.
Guys knew this back in the day. They all got big and jacked. They knew that the big exercises built the most muscle and worked the most muscle. They found it to be true.
Oh, yeah.
Guys got jacked on squats, bench, deadlifts, pull-ups, rows,
Sure.
overhead pressing, dips,
Yeah.
right? Front squats, all this stuff. Guys got really big and jacked on it for decades.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, the only reason machines and a lot of these other movements are more popular is because of the drugs.
Oh, that's why they're popular, because of the drugs. Okay.
Because of the drugs, because guys can't train it. I've done videos on that. Too many drugs makes it harder to do much volume on some of these big movements because of the low back pumps, the lack of conditioning, being too big.
Yeah, back pumps and all that, lacking conditioning, all these things. Yeah, even though muscles are post-methodic.
Okay? Not the fatigue, it's these other issues. But the issue is, they don't cause it.
Kevin Levrone, why do you think he went off his steroids? Because he just go off the steroids because he knew it was phony muscles. He goes on these steroids and he blows up like a little balloon. It's all water. His muscles are filled with water. He blows up and gives the illusion that he built muscle because you can't see what's inside. You only see what's on the outside. And he goes like that and he poses in the mirror. Look at me, I'm big and puffy and everything, these puffy muscles. Then he goes off his steroids and guess what? It deflates. It deflated. Why did it deflate? Because you didn't build any muscle because they're post-methodic. Duh.
Disproportionate amount of fatigue to their muscle growth, they cause multiple muscles to grow. And the same thing,
they fatigue them, they cause multiple muscles to grow, even though muscles do not grow because they're post-methodic. Science says that.
We were talking about volume, we want more, but you're getting lots of volume on this. Do you not understand how much
Do you people not understand?
volume throughout different muscles in your body, squats and
Do you not people not understand how much volume you need to go through and everything?
deadlifts do?
Yeah, deadlifts, yeah. People
They
don't
are
understand.
hitting huge amounts of volume to these different muscles, and they do
See, they do. They are hitting it, yeah.
cause enormous amounts of muscle growth.
And they do cause enormous amounts of muscle growth, hitting these muscles, even though the science tells you that muscles are post-methodic. They don't split and divide, increase number. And even Blaha, he screams at me and screams at everybody, says that there's no such thing as hyperplasia. Hyperplasia doesn't exist. But yet, he's telling you that all these exercises build muscles somehow, magically. They get them to go through mitosis. Oh, okay. They're going to hyperplasia. See what I mean? But science tells you muscles don't split, divide, increase in number. The muscle cells and the nuclei, which is multinucleated, they do not split, divide, and increase in number. I posted this in my community section many times. The nuclei, the muscles, listen to me. Your muscles already, when you were born and everything, that's what you're born with. That count and those myonuclei, that's what you're born with. Get it? They do not split, divide, and increase in number. See? They do not split, divide, increase in number. But the progenitor can split, divide, and increase in number, and it can donate some nuclei. But that has nothing to do with Blaha's talking about. He says that the weight is going to build muscle. And muscles do not split and divide, increase in number because you're just lifting a weight. Because they are fucking post-methodic.
these different muscles, right?
So what?
As a result of this,
Yeah?
people are just being lazy and they're scared of the big exercises and they believe that
No, they're not. Their instincts tell them those muscles aren't growing, and the experience also shows them it's not grow. They're not growing. They're lifting, but nothing is happening. Want to know why? Because if your muscles were to grow, if every time you lifted a box in a factory, or you worked on a construction site, or you went hunting and you did something and your muscles grew every time you used them, even to brush your hair or shave your face or take a shower, they grew every time you lifted your arm, you'd commit suicide and die. That's why your muscles are postmitotic. You understand me? They're not meant to grow. They're not meant to grow. You're wasting your time. The fitness industry is built on a scam, and it's to scam all of you, because guess what? All of your stuff is based on what? Beliefs. That's why I've lost all respect for people that believe in something and not base it on facts.
it's evidence-based. That's the problem. It's being used as an excuse to train lazy. Well, the stimulus to fatigue and I can isolate this muscle more, but that's not evidence-based. The evidence shows that isolating muscles does nothing for making them bigger.
The evidence shows that muscles are postmitotic. They do not grow no matter what you do.
That a big compound
Why do you think people take steroids? Because they want to fake the look, because they got to fake it to make it, because it cannot be created naturally. It cannot be created naturally. So they create something artificially, fake, to give the illusion that they built muscle. But in fact, they didn't build any muscle. Get it? Because muscle is post-mitotic.
builds the muscle.
Like Blaha. Look at him. He'll convince you in anything.
As long as it's a primary mover and the hard sets close to failure, causes just as much muscle growth. And it's not an
No, it doesn't. See, he keeps arguing this fact over and over again.
issue of one more volume. No, you mean you can spend more time? Because you got like 8 different muscles being worked on a squat or a deadlift that are all getting growth stimulus.
There's no hyperplasia in humans. It doesn't exist.
Based on the evidence. This is just people training lazy. That's all that it is. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative.
Yes, very uninformative.
And I'll talk to you guys and gals.
With no science proving what he says, that a weight can build muscle. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, friends. If a weight could only build a muscle, wow. And every time you lift it, it would build a muscle. Guess what? You'd commit suicide and die. That's why. That's why the difficulty, the bar, is astronomically high. It's outside the scope of anybody, because muscles, they don't build because they're post-mitotic. I'm sorry, people, to break that news. See you later.